Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. According to his great mercy, he has caused us to be born again to a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, to an inheritance that is imperishable, undefiled, and unfading, kept in heaven for you, who by God's power are being guarded through faith for a salvation ready to be revealed in the last time. Join us for the 2025 G3 National Conference here in Atlanta, Georgia on September 11th through the 13th. We hope to see you there.
Grace and peace, you guys. Welcome to the Standardoftruth podcast, where we discuss all things social, cultural, political, and theological from a biblical perspective. Happy Monday, dear friends. Welcome to the YouTube suburbs over here on the Standardoftruth podcast. My name is April Chapman, and I'm excited to be here with you this evening. Hopefully, you all had a wonderful weekend. Hopefully you ladies are getting ready for your Thanksgiving fixings and you are washing greens, not in the bathtub, but in the traditional way in the sink like sanitary people do, washing greens and picking peas and snap beans and black-eyed peas, soaking your beans. Let's see, what else are we doing? Making your cornbread for your dressing, shredding cheese for your mac and cheese, baking sweet potatoes, whatever it is that, I don't know, green bean casserole, whatever it is your dish. I hope that you are well underway getting prepared for the day of Thanksgiving. Welcome to everyone in the live chat. So excited to see so many of you this evening. I've got a few new tech things back here. So if I look confused, it's because I am. But that is okay. That is okay, because we're going to work through and power through these technology issues, and we're going to get into the show tonight. Today, we're going to be discussing, as you can see from the thumbnail, the latest gold medalist in the Victim Olympics, none other than Texas State Rep Jasmine Crockett. You guys, Miss Crockett is interesting to me. She's interesting to me because, as you are about to see, I'm going to share with you a rant of hers. I'm going to go ahead and play this rant, and she is big mad, okay? Like, she is big mad, and she is going to start talking about white people, oppressing black people, and she's going to get really bold and flippant in her perpetual condemnation of white America. I have talked about this in a previous video of how I've noticed that there is a certain segment of individuals within the black community who this is all that they have. And the idea is to continue to drag the past into the present and hold white Americans in this perpetual state of condemnation. And as I said on the previous video, they do this. And if you're expecting them to release you of this condemnation, you're just going to be holding your breath for a really long time if you are white. As the days and weeks progress, as we get closer and closer to Donald Trump's inauguration, you're going to be hearing a lot of this. They're going to be just turning it up on high, and so just get used to it. But in this recent grandstand rant of victimization and black supremacy, I'm going to share it with you, and I'm going to stop and start in between the ramp. So let's go ahead. Rant. Sorry, not ramp. Did I say ramp? I think I said ramp. In between the rant, I'm going to play it, and then we're going to go back and forth, and we're going to talk about it. So take a look.
Yep. Okay, Ms. Crockett.
So many of you know that I practice law, but some of you don't realize that I actually was a business major out of Rhodes College in Memphis, Tennessee. And the emphasis that I got in my business degree was on finance. And as I traveled the country campaigning this election cycle, one of the things that I talked about was this idea that in finance, we always promote this idea of diversity. If you know anything about a portfolio, the one thing that you want to do is make sure that it's as diverse as possible, because at times certain stocks will perform better than others, and they will exemplify various strengths and weaknesses. And together, a diverse portfolio is usually what any good finance person would promote. They wouldn't promote that you solely invest in vanilla wafers, believing that that is going to be the strongest portfolio, but instead they may want to add some chocolate cake and some Twinkies into the mix to make sure that we have the best portfolio, because there will be different preferences by different people, and again, there will be different strengths. But as I sit here and I think about what we say and what I'm hearing as it relates to diversity when it comes to anything outside of making money, and to be clear, we are losing GDP every time we try to push back on this idea of diversity, because all of us bring something different to the table. But you consistently said over and over the word oppression, and every time that you said it, it was almost as if I was hearing nails on a chalkboard, because it seems like you don't understand the definition of oppression, and I'd ask you to just refer to Google to help you out. Oppression is the prolonged, cruel, or unjust treatment or control. That is the definition of oppression. And so as I sit here as a Black woman who practiced civil rights, let me tell you, the reason that my colleagues wanted to make sure you understood the same Black history that your side of the aisle wants to delete out of classrooms is because you can then misuse words like oppression. There has been no oppression for the white man in this country.
Woo, child. All right, hold on. Let's, woo. All right, so y'all promise I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna be nice. It's Monday. It's the week of thanks, right? It's Thanksgiving, so I'm gonna be nice and I'm gonna do my best to be as gracious as I know how. I let that play for a little bit. I'm gonna let her cook because she just getting started. I'm gonna let her cook. But in this particular portion of the rant, I wanted to take a moment to just highlight a few things. In this rant, we have here where Miss Crockett, she tries to flex with her pseudo-intellectualism on finance. And the reason why I'm calling it pseudo-intellectualism and why her opening rant unfortunately falls flat on its face is because she's trying to draw this false equivalency between diversity in finance and in a portfolio and diversity of people in an organization. And unfortunately, if we just examine what she's actually saying and think deeply about this, remember, rants like this are designed to disarm you, right? She's talking kind of fast, and on the surface, you're like, oh, well, yes, diversity in portfolios and then diversity in other areas, those two must be the same. No, that is a huge category error. And that does not make sense. And I'm going to explain to you why. The idea that you will automatically have this diversity of skill sets and abilities, if diversity is based on ethnicity alone, and you're thinking, if we just diversify and have X many number of Blacks and X many number of whites, then it's going to be equal and the diversity is built on something that's credible. That is asinine and absurd. No one person is either skilled or qualified to do a particular job based solely on their ethnicity. And my question is, if that's the case, why don't we apply that same line of reasoning to sports and just let every Black boy into the NBA just because he's Black? Like, who cares if he's 5'6" and he weighed 270? Right? He's Black, right? Let's just let the little roly-poly on in and let him play because he's Black. We don't do that. Now, do we? No, we don't do that. That's not how we recruit basketball talent. That's not how we recruit basketball players. That's just interesting to me that whenever you hear the pro-blackity blacks demand a seat at the table, you never hear them demanding a seat at the table in hockey. Right? Like, hockey is as white can be. So my question is, where's the outrage? Where is the outrage? Because basketball is as black can be, but I don't see the bliggities and the pro-blackity blacks crying and demanding that we let more white people into the NBA and then demanding that we put more black people into hockey. We don't do that. We don't do that. We never see that. And the reason why that is because the truth is that this has nothing to do with actual oppression. It just doesn't. The bliggities and the pro-blackity blacks, they only lament over the past. And then they try to drag the past into the present because it's all they have. Now, mind you, they have no point of reference personally for all of this oppression that they're lamenting over. And the reason why I'm saying that, before we get real knee deep into her rant, I did just a little bit of research for this show. And this is why I said Ms. Crockett is so interesting to me. Because there's this little known fact is that Jasmine is originally from St. Louis, Missouri. And the point of reference for oppression, it's not like this is her lived experience, because Ms. Crockett attended a private school and then went to a PWI. Like, she wasn't oppressed in the least little bit. However, she spews this foolishness and this racist vitriol with all of this passion because it is profitable for her. And she and the Democrats, actually, they don't want diversity. What they want is to be in control. This is about a thirst for power, using an old and tired narrative that she knows is enough to trigger some of the people some of the time. But you can't fool and trigger all of the people all of the time. And so as long as black people believe that they are oppressed, right, they'll never accept personal responsibility for anything. So when it comes to this discussion on diversity, the context of this discussion is they're discussing all of these DEI initiatives that are proving to be failures. How do we know? All we got to do is look at the VP, the DEI hire of the century, Kamala Harris. This woman has done a piss poor job of being the second in command behind a mentally deficient, not because it's his fault, but because of his age, really bad president. Like, the worst president we could have ever had, we got the worst VP that we could have ever had. But yet, we know for a fact that Kamala is a DEI hire because Joe Biden told us that his VP was going to be a woman and she was going to be black. The problem is she only really met 50% of that quota, but who's paying attention? Because we notice the Democrats completely overlooked the fact that she's not really black. It checked a box in terms of Kamala knows how to cosplay and pretend to be a part of the construct of blackness. Remember, blackness is a construct. It has more to do with your worldview and your mindset than how you physically present yourself. For example, we know that Talcum X, Sean King ain't really black, but he subscribes to the construct of blackness, and this is why he's accepted into the pro-blackity black coalition. Like, people like me. Now, I'm a foundational black American. I was born in this country. My parents were born here, and some of their parents were born here. Some of them came over by way of the Dominican Republic, but eventually, somewhere along the line, there's some Africans who was snatched up, or should I say sold, to some other people and then brought over here. People like me, I'm the wrong kind of black. So the point is, it's not about how you present yourself and how much melanin you have. For them, the blackness is the mindset. It's the loathe. It's the liberation. It's the victimhood. You have to put that on. Like, you know how believers, how we put on Christ? Blackness, for these people, you have to put it on. You have to wear it, live it, eat it, breathe it. The more oppressed, the better. If you function in your freedom and you attempt to live as a free American, no, those ain't the kind of blacks that they like. They don't want to hear from people like me. So the question is, how is this woman lamenting over oppression when she is a member of the party that is responsible for the oppression? I'm talking about oppression, and then oppression back then, and oppression now. What do I mean? Remember, Democrats are the party of slavery, Jim Crow, the welfare state, and now they are the party of the failing educational system, a crumbling immigration system. Essentially, they want no borders, a horrible economy. They can't balance a budget if it was in their hand and they had handles and straps. They can't do it. Lawlessness, womb assassination, and the rainbow mafia. Those are all oppressive constructs and ideas and policies that are not good for the country. But she's the one that's a member of the party of her oppressor. All the white supremacy she talking about, you're on the side of the oppressor. I'm trying to understand the basis of your outrage, Ms. Crockett. I don't get it. Like, you are a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat. And for somehow, some way, even with all of the prestigious secondary education that you received at your little private schools in St. Louis, you guys, she went to the Mary Institute and the St. Louis Country Day School and Rosati Kane, which is an all-girls Catholic high school. You guys, those are, if you look them up, those are some pretty prestigious schools. And I would know. See, the difference between a Jasmine Crockett and myself, I don't hide or shy away from my origin story. I was born and raised in Bronx, New York, in the hood. And due to Democrat oppression, my mother had to advocate for me to leave that failing school district and to get a better education somewhere else. And doing that opened up this other world of opportunity for me to go to a school just like Jasmine Crockett did. One of them really expensive white schools. Yes, I went to one of those. But the difference between that is I looked at that as an opportunity to obtain something that I knew would help me later on in life, give me exposure to a different world and a different culture that I cherish to this day. But the last thing I was doing was crying victimhood. You know why? Because to get there, I had to compete. Like, they don't just let any old body into the school on the basis of just because you look the part. No, if you can't compete, if you can't handle the coursework, and if you can't show your work, then you have to go. Jasmine wouldn't have been able to go to those prestigious schools if she wasn't halfway smart and capacitous. Now, I know she likes to pontificate on the House floor and disseminate, all of her credentials and things like that. I'm no shade to that. She was dry snitching. But it had no value here, because in the next breath, every stride and accomplishment she has made, she snatches it right back so that she can wallow in the victimhood narrative and the oppression narrative. Why? Because it's profitable. And so I want to talk a little bit about, why am I bringing up her educational background, right? Like, why am I bringing that up? I'm bringing that up because this chick is sitting in one of the most prestigious seats. Like, you are a sitting congresswoman, right? Like, her district, I think it is a little ghetto Democrat district. But if I wanted to secure power in an area where I knew if I just keep selling these people their own victimhood, I will stay in office for life. I know exactly how I would do it. I would run in a ghetto Democrat stronghold district. And all I would do is talk about how low down white people are and how low down they, how they treating us and they oppressing us and all of the whiteness. Like, I would talk about all of that. I would focus on slavery. Like, my needle would be stuck on slavery and how everything is the white man's fault. But you know what? The reason why you don't see me doing that is because I'm not a liar. Like, I'm not an Obama. I'm not a Kamala Harris. All of them learned blackness as a construct, and they've all learned how to cosplay in the world in order to rise up to power. Isn't it funny how they can rise to power, right? That they can just somehow achieve. They can achieve whatever it is that their goals are, but they want to sit in the seats in the halls of Congress and lecture white people on how everything is their fault and how they have all the power. The good news about this narrative is that the grip is loosening. But what all of these race hustlers do, or the one thing they all have in common, is they all learn the talking points. And these talking points serve as a trigger, and they know exactly how to make a fool out of black people. That's what you're watching here. Like, and this is a ratcheting theater of the worst kind. What Jasmine is doing is following the blueprint, just like so many race hustlers before her, race hustlers and skin traders, like your Al Sharptons and your what's the girl, the bald-headed chick, Ayanna Presley and Jamal Bowman and the little wannabe, the pastor chick, Cori Bush, her. This is nothing but the new Willie Lynch letter. How to make a slave. You're literally watching a step-by-step treatise on how to make a slave. So let's let her finish this rant. And then we're gonna talk about the queen energy and just the absurdity of so many of the statements that she's about to make.
Me which white men were dragged out of their homes. You tell me which one of them got dragged all the way across an ocean and told that you are going to go and work. We are going to steal your wives. We are going to rape your wives. That didn't happen. That is oppression.
I mean, I get it, sis. I get it. That is oppression. But all civilizations at some point get conquered. Like, why did you leave out the part that most of the slaves who were rounded up and sold to the Europeans were neighboring tribes that were fighting, and just one was stronger than the other? Like, Africans subdued and conquered other Africans and sold them off in exchange for trinkets and pearls and guns and all sorts of things of value. Why do you leave that part? Like, I think it's pretty atrocious. For people who look like other people, like y'all look the same, and one tribe is conquering the other tribe, that goes to show you it had nothing to do with whiteness. It had everything to do with who's in power, who's going to be conquered, and who lost. And it just happened to be our turn. It happened to be our turn. And yeah, so the Europeans, they couldn't come into the interior of the country. They would have died of malaria. They wouldn't have made it. They on the coast, picking up some slaves. Yes, we transported over here under some brutal conditions. Yes, some very heinous and wicked things happened to our women and happened to our men. And some people had sense enough to be like, I will die before I be captured and made into a slave. So some of them literally jumped ship. Like, literally, they jumped off the ship in the middle passage. They were like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to do this. You ain't about to pack me in the bottom of this ship like sardines. Like to me, that's a story of triumph. I'm like, hey, you didn't want to be a slave. You like, I will jump to my death before I let them take me. I don't even know where they taking me. But such is life, right? She talks about this. Why this is relevant in 2024 is beyond me. But the more I thought about it, I said, you know what? I do know why this is relevant. And we're going to talk a little bit about it. I put together this whole concept of the reason why the pro-blackity blacks, that was my new term, pro-blackity blacks and the bliggities. I got bliggities from Blanchard over on Instagram. He is one of the co-hosts on Cutting Through the Culture with Chad and Chuck and the beautiful Mrs. Keisha King. He calls them the bliggities. So I'm about to adopt that into my vernacular. But I'm going to let her cook some more. I just wanted to highlight that whole we was stolen. You're not the first people group to be conquered, and you're not the first people group to be sold into slavery. Now, I would like to mention we were the first people group for the most part that really didn't revolt in mass and fight back. And that part is a shame. I do believe that we allowed cowardice and complacency to kind of settle in generation after generation to where we got to the point where we'd actually rather be with our oppressor than to seek freedom. See, that's the part we don't want to talk about. We don't want to talk about the parts of history, particularly during the Civil War, where slaves were offered their freedom if they were willing to fight for it. And so many of them were like, nah, master, I'm going to stay here with you. I'm going to take care of you and the missus and make sure, everything here is all right. Like, there's so many stories of that, but we never get to hear those stories. Why? Because the oppressor narrative is so much more glamorous, and they glean power from it, because as long as you can keep white people today in perpetual condemnation of something that didn't have nothing to do with them, that happened 1,511 years ago, you can appear or claim a level of superiority over them and impress and impugn guilt to these people when they like, I don't have nothing to be guilty of. But that's just the culture that we live in right now. So let me let her finish.
We didn't ask to be here. We not the same migrants that y'all constantly come up against. We didn't run away from home. We were stolen.
No, not quite. Yes, you were stolen, or mostly conquered and captured by people that looked like you and then sold. She forgets that part, but I just wanted to bring that up.
So yeah, we are going to sit here and be offended when you want to sit here and act like, and don't let it escape you that it is white men on this side of the aisle telling us, people of color on this side of the aisle, that y'all are the ones being oppressed.
I mean, first of all, we need, let's deal with the oppression. We need to deal with the oppression. Let me remind you, Ms. Crockett, you are sitting on the side of the aisle of you're sitting on the side of the oppressor, the party of slavery, the party of Jim Crow, the party of all kinds of subjugation, modern day oppression today, such as not advocating for school choice. Like you love when your constituents are stuck in a failing school. You just want to keep them all collective together and tell them, don't you dare to dream. Don't you dare desire to want something better for yourself. No, you have to stay in this failing school. That's oppressive. I think it's oppressive to sell black women on womb assassination as if it's a good thing, and to demonize the idea of, wanting to be a wife and a mom, like, I don't know, family values. I mean, it's kind of, under liberal policies, it's real difficult to function in your freedom. It's oppressive for you to champion gun control when I need my gun. Like, I need Jesus in my heart and I need my 9 on my hip, because Taquayshawn don't give a darn about nobody else but himself. So for me to protect myself from Taquayshawn, I got to have my gun. But you don't want me to have my gun. Because you love the government being daddy, and daddy just being in control of everything and everyone. You are on the side of big government. You don't like when people function in their freedom. But she wants to lecture these white men in the halls of Congress. And the reason why she does this and she gets away with this, and I blame white America for this. Y'all allowed this. Cowardice allowed these black orangutans to get on these little high horses and threaten to call you racist. And so because you don't want to be called a racist, you just let them cook like this. And then you internalize the white guilt, and then to overcompensate, you ain't guilty, but then to overcompensate for it, you give them an inch and then they take a mile. I already told you, I would look these people in the eye and be like, I will not live and perpetual condemnation for something I ain't had nothing to do with. And I don't know how long you're going to be singing this song, but the fat lady has sung, the band has packed up, everybody's going home, and you're just here bouncing up and down in this seat all by yourself. And your grip is loosening. And the reason why we know the grip is loosening, because America overwhelmingly is voting against all this DEI foolishness. We are tired. It's so played out, but they will go down with the ship because they have to keep the narrative going. They've been told by their overlords, we're losing too many of the black vote. So you better turn this up into high gear now, because we can't have too many more of these black folks waking up and realizing that y'all don't care nothing about them. We can't have that. So this is why she is given the stage in order for her to do scene 1 and then scene 2, and then she ends on a high note, and then it's take a bow in scene. Like, yes, this is why you seeing all this. This is theater. This is really theater. But let's let her finish.
That y'all are the ones that are being harmed. That's not the definition of oppression. You tell me the prolonged, cruel, or unjust treatment that you've had, and we can have a conversation.
You can start with Exodus.
The final thing that I will say.
So the man says you can start with Exodus. So basically, I think he mentioned that to prove the point that, Jews were the subject of unjust, cruel treatment in Exodus. The Babylonian exile. I mean, you got the Jews in Nazi Germany. You have blacks then, blacks today. But the blacks today, the oppression that we're under, it's actually under Jerome Crow rule. Think about it. If you live in a blue city or in a Democrat stronghold, 9 times out of 10, the people who have been elected to serve as your overlord look just like you. And we don't know what the heck they be doing in Congress, but your neighborhoods are less safer. Your infrastructure is crumbling. The schools are trash. Like, it's just bad. It is just bad. But yet they always want to blame some evil, rich white folk. And I'm like, I ain't seen none of these evil, rich white people. Like, where are they? Because they ain't in District 4. They're Hank Johnson's district. It ain't nothing but a bunch of black folks over there. It's a few little whites left, not many. I probably can count them all. But no, there's nobody in charge but y'all. Nobody in charge but y'all. I'm going to I just think it's so interesting that she sits in one of the most prestigious positions in the nation. And she is sitting here attempting to hold modern American politicians who happen to be white in contempt for the past, as if it's holding her back or has held anyone else back today. We don't know where that's happening, but she keeps saying it. And I find it interesting, she flexed, mentioned her education, and y'all, her education was white. I'm talking about like lily white. Both high school, college. She went to Rhodes College, PWI. I mean, to be fair, there's nothing wrong with any of that. My issue is that she has no problem navigating in the world of whiteness and excelling in it, but somehow she can boast about oppression and victimization, or be upset that these white men are saying, listen, these DEI practices are discriminatory. They're discriminatory because what they do is they're trying to fight racism by being more racist. Like, how does that work? And this is America. If you can't figure out how to gain or achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve on the basis of your own merit, something is wrong with you. Because it's the freest country of the world that is a wealth of opportunities that are just open to you if you are willing to work hard and just go do the darn thing. And I'm talking about even if you start at the bottom and are dirt poor. It's crazy to me how she's able to excel. She can excel, but somehow she can boast about oppression and victimization. And I wonder, like I said, if she would have this same kind of energy. If I or another conservative black woman tried to unseat her orangutan behind? Like, if we just ran against her, just head to head, would she be still talking about, would she still be singing this, or she'd be singing a different tune? Because here's the truth. This is not about diversity. It's not. What the Democrats want is homogeneity. They want sameness. They want homogeneity of thought. They only want certain kinds of diversity, and it has to be diversity that they approve. So you can't be a conservative. You can't do that. You can't have conservative thoughts. You definitely can't have a faith-based mindset. It's only the kinds of diversity that's approved by them that they allow. Because she doesn't believe in conservative thought and ideas like mine. She doesn't think that my voice should be heard because conservatism to her is dangerous. In that world, it is dangerous. It's too much. It's too much like functioning in your freedom. She can't have that. No. Function in your freedom. No, we that's not allowed. Democrats cannot stand free-thinking, independent-minded Americans of any color, but especially black ones. And the reason why Jasmine does this is because she knows that there is a template. There is a template for maintaining the black vote. And she knows exactly how to put on all that yes queen energy. She knows that all she has to do is to do this and grandstand like this to keep the money flowing. Why? Progressives are the only ones throwing money at the Democrat Party right now. After the scam of Kamala Harris, most of the donors have dried up. So it's only basically, really diehard progressives and the rainbow cult adherents that are giving money to the Democrat Party. So to keep the money flowing for her reelection, because she got to stay on code, because it sure ain't the poor blacks in her district that are donating to keep her in office. So she has to parrot these talking points. She absolutely has to be on board with the LGBT agenda. She's absolutely a member of the Equality Caucus. Like, you go check all the committees that she's on and the coalitions that she's a part of. You'll be like, what the heck is this? Like, she is far left progressive as they come. Mind you, we just saw in this last election that all this gay mess, it is going to run the Democrat Party in the ground. But for now, they don't care because this is the grift. Who cares that all of that foolishness is detrimental to her district? She needs that far left progressive money. And as long as she needs that far left progressive money, she is going to continue to pontificate like this and show the hell out on the Congress floor. That's what she's going to do. And as I was preparing for this show tonight, I thought about something. I said, all this time, Democrats, they cry about slavery, how hard it was for them. And for once, I was like, you know what? I'm going to agree with them. I am going to agree with them, and I am inclined to agree with Miss Crockett for once. For once, this orangutan is right, and let me explain what I mean. When you hear them talk like this, you are witnessing the psychological effects of slavery and how it's affected us today. This is classic Stockholm syndrome. She ain't never been a slave. She's never been a slave. But when you take a good look at this, I'm like, you know what? I finally agree with you. I'm not going to argue with you no more. There is no contention between us. This is Stockholm syndrome and cognitive dissonance. This woman has effectively admitted that she and others like her, they are still under oppression and control. And do you know what? I agree. Why? Because she's a Democrat. She's a Democrat, and the Democrats, everywhere they rule, there is lots of oppression. And her constituents, they continue to vote for them. And that's where the Stockholm syndrome comes from. And granted, now I pray that we don't have any more elected like this, but the skin trading, this is nothing but a skin trading victimhood idolater. And it is precisely what is wrong and why we need to do away with DEI. Diversity in the way they define it does not work. Diversity, according to how the left defines it, it will never work because it's not based on merit or skill or diversity of thought. It is simply on the basis of ethnicity. And my goal is, I hope, like what happened to Cori Bush and Jamal Bowen, I'm hoping that somebody primaries her. Primary this orangutan and that she just disappear into the abyss and do something else, because America is tired. We are tired of this. We are tired of constantly having to relive and re-adjudicate the fact that slavery was bad and it is one of the stains on the fabric of America, but we cannot move forward and Black people cannot gain the respect of our peers because instead of respect, we get pity. The more you cry about oppression and what happened to somebody that you never met and did not know, and then the people you talking about, the same people who had you on the plantation, you are in the party of them. They didn't change. They are the ones in control of the educational plantation system. They're the ones that demand to keep you guys out there, your kids, on the educational plantation of a failing school. They demanded, if you cry for school choice, you know what they do? They ignore you. Go to your Democratic lawmaker and you tell them we must have school choice. And they will hem and haw and make every kind of excuse in the world that, oh no, school choice just takes money to give and it gives it to rich white folks. Isn't that what Freddie Haynes said? That you know, they trying to take money, do away with the Department of Education so they could give money to rich white people. Lies again. This is why it is a very controversial statement. But at this point, it needs to be embraced. Slavery is a choice. Why? Because it is too hard for Black Democrats to examine and look at what the Democrats are doing. They can't do it. So instead, you have what's called cognitive dissonance sets in. This is the part, the slavery being a choice part. Cognitive dissonance is literally, it is the scientific term for pride. This woman's making a whole lot of money trying to grandstand and double down on the fact that even though Democrats for over the past 60 years have been a failure for Black people. They've been a failure for America, but especially for Black people. The cognitive dissonance is a scientific term for pride because pride says, I see the results, I see the writing on the wall, but instead of me humbling myself and saying these outcomes are trash and we got to do something different, you double down. You double down. Like literally, the pride of refusing to concede that you are wrong is what leads to the cognitive dissonance, and you continue to do the same thing, thinking you're going to get different results. From a biblical perspective, you guys, God hates pride. Everything out of this woman's mouth, I'll let her cook some more, it is nothing but pride. Let's let her finish.
On this particular issue, two things. There is an article from The Guardian, and it is a little old. It's from 2021, so I apologize. But it said that back then, just 3 years ago, white men represent 30% of the population, but 62% of office holders. These are the issues that we are constantly looking at and recognizing and trying to say, is this just? I can't even tell you how many white men have served in this chamber, but I can tell you that I am only the 55th Black woman to be elected to Congress. And so when you want to talk about history and pretend as if it was so long ago, it wasn't.
But who cares that you're the 55th one? So my question is, do you want it 50-50? Like, how does this play out in real life? In Congress, since it's too many white men, mind you, these are elected officials by their constituents, and we only represent 11% of the population, but I don't know, math escapes her, Miss Finance, Business Administration lady. How would you like Congress to be laid out? Do we divide it up in a pie? You know, we go like this, and we say a third. We can only have a third white men. So that means the voters have to say, oh, wait a minute, I can't vote for him, even though he is more qualified and he represents my values and he is saying all the things that I would like to see in a congressperson. I can't vote for him because it's too many white people there. I gotta now. So, I mean, do we have equal representation of whites and then blacks? And then do we throw the Hispanics in there? What about the Asians? What if there are not enough Asians who run for office? Because typically they don't really run for office. Why? Because they too busy working and hustling and making money and owning everything, selling you all that hair hanging off your head, them darn lashes. That's what the Asians are doing. So they're like, I ain't even got time to entertain the foolishness that she talking about, because I got to get this hair imported from China and Malaysia so she can stick it on her hair. That's what the Asians are doing. The Hispanics, they're too busy having babies and owning landscaping companies and construction firms. That's what they doing, right? They the pool service. They too busy out here hustling, trying to get the bag. Meanwhile, they don't want to vote for you either because they see that you're anti-capitalism, and Hispanics absolutely love capitalism. So that just leaves the blacks and the whites, because the Indians ain't really enough for them. Kamala don't really count. She ain't in the Senate no more. And as the DEI VP, I don't know what she about to do after that. So that just leaves blacks and whites. So do we just split Congress and we have to have an equal number of blacks and an equal number of whites? Well, what about men versus women? How do we then do we drill it down some more and say, well, now that it's 50% white and 50% black, now we have to break it down by gender. So now the men and women going to be fighting, and then we got to drill it down some more. You got to have the rainbow cult represented. So you got to have some trans people in there. I mean, are we looking for wheelchair bound people with peg legs? Like, where does this diversity foolishness end? Where does it end? It's stupid. But it's so stupid that they don't even realize the folly and the error of the things that they advocate for. So this is why it's cognitive dissonance at this point. Cognitive dissonance, you guys, is a form of pride. A person will fight you 10 times harder to prove that they are not wrong than to admit that they are right. Look at all the energy that you have to expend to be like, I know I'm wrong, but I can't admit that I'm wrong. So I'm just going to drill down and keep thinking I'm right. I'm going to keep banging my head up against the wall, and the outcomes are trash and things are getting worse, not better. Like, I don't know if y'all knew, but Crockett was the vice chair of the Kamala Harris campaign. So she was essentially a surrogate and a mouthpiece for that failed campaign. So she definitely can't humble herself and say, we down bad. We ran a horrible campaign and got our butts spanked, and we probably need to go back to the drawing board. She can't do that. She can't do that. So let me read to you guys. I want to read you guys a little something on pride. I have the best friends. I have the absolute best friends, just wise and willing to share with me information that always is going to be of value to help me formulate my thoughts on these topics. And I was talking to a friend today, and we were talking about C.S. Lewis. And we were talking about C.S. Lewis and pride because, according to C.S. Lewis, pride leads to every other sin, every other vice, and it is the complete anti-God state of mind. I said, wow, think about it. It starts with pride, and that's the vice that just leads into so many other things. And so I want to share with you some thoughts. When I was talking about how annoyed I was with this baseless bitterness of not just this particular black woman, but black women in general, I don't hide it. I am very annoyed because it is baseless, and it is a bitterness that is so destructive. It is impacting our family outcomes. It's impacting our children. It's just causing our ethnic image to just be really just marred in the eyes of the watching world. And as I was preparing for this show, it was brought to my remembrance of Christian apologist C.S. Lewis and how he wrote about, at its core, pride is a destructive force. Why? Because it thrives on competition, comparison, and the need to be superior. I was like, that's it right there. Not only do we see that in this exchange with Jasmine Crockett, but we see this in the relationship between modern women and Black men today. Modern Black women and Black men today, the source of that main contention in that battle between the sexes, competition, comparison, and the need to be superior. Pride does not find joy in just simply something being good. Instead, it's got to find satisfaction in being better than someone else. So it's like, okay, Black men and Black women can't figure out how to get on the same page and get on the same program because there's this perpetual competition. You're not content with God's ordained design for the family and the order and the structure of things. So instead, you have to constantly be chasing. I got to be better than him and I got to make more money than him. And then, Lord forbid, if you start making more money than him, you will make sure you remind him at every turn. Forget we're building this thing together and your money is my money and it's our money. No, this is mine. And what's over there that's yours, that's mine too. But this right here is definitely mine. That's what we see. We see the competition. How many Black women have you heard talk and in this real haughty and boastful way about how Black women are the most educated and they're outpacing Black men hand over fist? And I'm like, yeah, you might be doing that, but you still by yourself and you still struggling and you ain't got no joy and you miserable. So what did all of that get you? What did it get you? What did all of the pride of all of your accomplishments, at the end of the day, was it worth it? I mean, you got people out here like, what's the girl name, freezing her eggs and just having a random baby because the competition, the constant, the disrespect and the superiority, this perceived notion that I am better than you, therefore you're beneath me. That's what we're dealing with. The sin of pride isolates us. Black women always talk about nobody's protecting us. We're just out here. We're so by ourselves. Well, a lot of it has to do with the sin of pride. If you feeling isolated, maybe if you try to put on humility, maybe somebody might actually come to your rescue. Like if you actually adopted a mindset of, you know what? We are meant to live in a sense of community with others. And we were made for human relationships. We weren't made to have to do it all and shoulder the burden all by ourselves. Maybe there's a mindset shift that needs to take place. And that wasn't even a direction I was going in, but I figured I'd bring it up since we talk about the sin of pride. I talked about, yes, the sin of pride isolates us. It feeds resentment. It breeds contempt, right? And more importantly, I believe it blinds us to our own faults. Why? Because you're too preoccupied with magnifying the faults of others. Pride is that one sin that turns reconciliation into this struggle for dominance and forgiveness into a transaction that never truly satisfies the heart. That's why you see with her going on this rant, trying to impugn all of this guilt, heaping coals upon the white men in the halls of Congress, like everything is their fault. It's because there's a struggle for dominance. There's no forgiveness here. There's no room for forgiveness in this mindset because I told you in my other video, they'll never be satisfied. You will constantly live in perpetual condemnation of America's past, not because you've done anything, but because their hearts are hardened, they are prideful, they are idolatrous, And you're never going to get any sort of humility and a spirit of, I'm just here to serve and work together with you. You're not going to get that. The one, that's not profitable. I told you that. Because it's, as soon as you start talking about, okay, well, I hear what you're saying. If you start talking about cognitive dissonance, the first thing they'll say is, well, what about the Republicans? What about the people on the other side of the aisle? There's never any self-reflection. They always have to deflect. My thing is, don't deflect. No, let's have the conversation. Let's just party in the box and stay in the pocket and talk about your side and what y'all are doing. The Republicans are not in communities of color. They're not there. Deal with what is. Deal with what the Dems are doing. Why would you give a government, right? If oppression is so bad and these people are just have their knee on your neck, why would you give a government who you believe is racist and oppressive? Why are you going to give them more power? Who does that? Like, that's not even, that don't make no sense. Why would you give them more power over you? Why would you want them in charge of your health care? Why are you demanding more from them in terms of not just your health care, your education, child care, you name it? The left wants the government's hands all up and through it. They want more. If it's so oppressive, and if they're so oppressive and they're mistreating you so bad, why you want them in charge of you? Why you want them in charge of you? So I agree with the left. I agree with the left. Whenever they start talking about slavery, yes, we blacks are definitely still suffering the psychological effects of slavery. Now, nobody alive today has been a slave, but you can talk about slavery. But my thing is, don't leave out the Democrat Party. Don't leave them out. We need to talk about that. Why? We need to talk about that because they're the ones who the oppressors then, and they are the ones who the oppressors now. And if you look at how ride or die, these pro-blackity blacks are for the Democratic Party, they love their master. They will fight kicking and screaming when someone tries to pull them away from the Democrat Party. Oh no. They like Stephen from Django. When they shot Mr. Candy and he was holding him and rocking him in his lap, that's them. They respond with violence and will resist you when someone tries to pull them away from their oppressor. Y'all, that is classic Stockholm Syndrome. Don't tell me that ain't what she's suffering from. Everybody who's still a Democrat now, when you actually try to hold up a mirror, be like, but this is what y'all out here doing. Like the sexual perversion, we don't get no school choice. We got open borders. Y'all keep spending all this money sending it to Ukraine. Did I mention the sexual perversion, like the freak nasty stuff that y'all just want to put into everything? Y'all I took my girls to the library today, and I'm thinking, I'm just being a good homeschool mama. They wanted to get out the house and they want to go to the library. We go to the library in the teen section. Y'all, some of the books on them darn shelves, I was like, this is nasty. In the teen section. And my daughter, she was like, Mom. I was like, girl, we just keep moving. Books, blatant LGBT themes, like in the library, the public library. So I'm like, wait a minute, this is my tax dollars. This is my tax dollars at work. I'm sitting here looking at this beautiful library with all these freak nasty books on the shelves for children. But when you point this stuff out, when someone tries to pull them away from their oppressor, they will fight you kicking and screaming. And you want to tell me that black folks today are still not suffering the effects of slavery? Yes, they are. I used to think that wasn't true. I was just like, how is it possible for black people alive today to be suffering the effects of slavery when they've never been a slave? And I realized, I was like, no, yeah, they are. They've passed down They have passed down that slavery mindset to the next generation. And every time your grandmama was a Democrat, and then your great grandmama was a Democrat, your grandmama Democrat, your mama a Democrat, now you a Democrat, and you still think like they do, Stockholm syndrome. And then when we try, people like me who just try to be like, hey, look, for the past 60 years, this hasn't worked for us. Like a Christian worldview with a conservative political bent has always helped not just the Black community, but Americans thrive best. Why don't you kind of just take a look at what we have over here? They get violent when you try to pull them away. Are y'all familiar when I'm using the term Stockholm syndrome, what I'm talking about? I think I did some research. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. I did some research. Oh no, how long ago was it? Let me see if I can find it. I had actually did a show on Stockholm at one point in terms of where the term came from. A good book that you can read about this, you guys, is Vince Everett Ellison's book, 25 Lies or End of Tolerance? Which one? Oh gosh. No, it's 25 Lies. Y'all, 25 Lies is available on audiobook. And I'm telling you, that book will have you, don't throw your phone across the room because then you'll break it. But in his book, 25 Lies, in chapter, which chapter is it? He talked in chapter 9, number 8, lie number 8, where he talks about the big switch that occurred in 1960. You really need to read that one. Will mess you up. And the other one, chapter 20, the lie number 19 is conservatives are the enemy of Black Americans. And then lie number 26, Black people were not and are not free. Those right there, those 3 chapters will free you. And it's unfortunate, but pride leads to unforgiveness. That's what you're seeing here. And here's the part for my audience, right? So you guys, if you're listening to me, 9 times out of 10, you would profess to be a Christian, right? So you would say, yes, I am in Christ. The idea that you can continue to impugn sin to people who did nothing to you, and even if they did, for you to harbor unforgiveness and hatred in your heart, that is sinful. And so it confuses me when I listen to all of these Black pulpit pimps, these Black preachers, not all of them. I hate the fact that I have to say that. Like, everybody who's listening to my content knows who I'm talking about when I talk about the Black pulpit pimps. When they preach this rhetoric from the pulpit, all of that hatred and talking about the oppression and the white supremacists, like, when were you washed and cleansed? Because if you were washed and cleansed and the grace of God was made manifest in your life, when are we going to get to the forgiveness part? Because no one is doing anything to you. No one is doing anything to you. But I will say the pride of your Blackness, it is blinding you from seeing the error of your own ways. That's what I'll say. That's happening. I'll also say that if you are attending a church and these are the kinds of messages that are coming from the pulpit, how ungodly is that? Instead of you saying, forgive us our debts as we forgive those, or forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who have trespassed against us, when do we get to the forgiveness part? Right? Like the pride of your own, you doubling down in the pride of your own sinfulness and your own idolatry and your own unwillingness to self-reflect and say, Nobody is oppressing me today. I can't name the white person that's oppressing me. I can't point them out. I can't draw a stick figure of them. And even if you're one of those blacks that say, but it's the system, right? I'm like, all right, let's deal with the system. What is the system that's oppressing you in such a way? And are there individuals who somehow have managed to escape this system? Because if they have, my question to you is, well, why can't you? What's the difference between you and the person who managed to escape the oppressive system? What is it that they did that you just somehow are unwilling or unable to do? That's what I want to know. Slavery is a choice. These pro-blackity blacks, her, Ayanna Presley, that whole, she's a newer member to Congress, but this house of cards is crashing down, and it's crashing down fast. And the thing about it for me is this is the representation of black women that the nation gets to see. And unfortunately, this is a stain on our ethnic image because this woman can't think in proper categories. Why are we discussing slavery in 2024 in a conversation on diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is a modern form of racism that doesn't move us any closer to being viewed as image bearers in this country who are contributing and adding value in a myriad of ways? No, it is causing people it's worse than pity. Now it is downright, I despise those people because we've given them everything and it still ain't enough. And I don't want people viewing me that way. When I sit down at a table, I already know I am equal and no one is superior to me. So let's just have a discussion and debate ideas without having to bring ethnicity into it. If you're an image bearer and I'm an image bearer, that's all that matters. Let's just deal with the facts. Let's deal with what is. But this is a power trip and a ploy that they have played over and over again. And it is getting so worn out and tired that at this point, they're just letting her rant and it's going over everybody's head and they're just going to move on. Just going to move on. And eventually, the more people who use their voice like me to talk against it, eventually the Jasmine Crockett's of the world will run out of steam. They'll just run out of steam. The more that America stands up and is like, I keep hearing you talking about, oppression, but I don't feel it, sis. Sorry. I don't feel it. This is a grift. This is a grift. And they will go down with the ship. This is the co-chair of the Harris campaign, the failed campaign that blew through all of your Democratic money. It wasn't my money. Because they sure was texting me. I was like, how you even get this number? I don't even like Democrats like that. Begging for money. She don't give a darn what those analytics are telling her. The analytics that said people overwhelmingly don't want none of this progressive leftism foolishness. They don't care. They don't care about the analytics. They just want the bag. I guarantee you her children are exercising school choice and go to private school if she has children. I have tried digging to find out. I'm like, is this chick so bitter and broken? Is she even married? I was like, Lord, bless the man that put a ring on that, because that's a lot. That's a whole headache right there. I found conflicting information. I don't know if she's married with kids, but if she is, either he's a weak beta male or she's a whole headache and they'll be divorced in the next 5 to 8 years. I don't know. I don't wish that on nobody. I'm just saying, as another woman, I couldn't deal with that. I'd be like, ooh, this is team too much for me. Just saying. Do y'all want to listen to the rest of her rant? I mean, we can. I don't really have nothing else to say, but we can listen to it. Let's go.
Because again, I am just number 55. Finally, when we start to talk about what do these numbers do as we're trying to say the diversity, equity, and inclusion is the problem, the reality is that when it comes to financial performance, companies with more diverse workforces are more likely to outperform their competitors. Companies in the top quartile for racial diversity are 35% more likely to outperform their peers on profitability. Companies with diverse executive teams are 25% more likely to generate greater profits. Diverse companies earn 2.5 times higher cash flow per employee.
I don't know where she got them stats from, but I'm gonna give y'all some inside information. Listen, do y'all remember with all the Me Too stuff was going on? There were a lot of corporations. See, this is how this foolishness ends up biting you in the butt. A lot of corporations doing all that Me Too stuff secretly. Oh, they didn't make no public proclamation of it, but secretly at the higher executive level, they was like, don't hire no woman. I don't want the headache. Don't do it. Mm-mm. And then just mysteriously, there were no women in upper level management for a season. Didn't nobody want to deal with the headache. Because at any given moment, somebody was going to be like, he touched me. He breathed on me wrong. I'm just telling you. And when it comes to this DEI foolishness, yes, there are some companies that bowed the knee, and the ones that did realize this crap is a scam. It's bad for business. It is bad for the bottom line. Why? Because it is a liability to hire a person on the basis of DEI, because the moment that something happens that doesn't go their way, you know what they're going to do? Their default position was, oh, this happened to me because I'm black. Oh, this happened to me because I'm a woman. Oh, this happened to me because I'm gay. It's like, no, you just suck at your job. But you can't, you know what I'm saying? Do you see the liability exposure that is opened up here with all this DEI foolishness? Because you're not there on the sole basis of your merit and the value that you add to the organization, you get to use whatever intersectionality checkbox that you mark. You get to wear it as a badge of honor, and then it becomes a handicap and a liability to the company. Don't nobody care that you black. If you didn't get the promotion or you got fired, 9 times out of 10, it's because you were not qualified for it. But when you implement DEI strategies into an organization, and you have to take that into consideration, it throws a monkey wrench into the discussion that would not be there if you were just there on your merit. Why? First of all, when you get there based on DEI, your peers don't respect you. Because everybody's looking at you like, we know how she got here, or we know how he got here. It's like, it diminishes your ability to compete. It actually has the opposite effect. Now, I'd be interested to see where she got those statistics from, and I'd be interested to engage with them in a meaningful way. Actually, this is the part of the rant that I did not listen to. So I find that interesting. I also know how the left likes to twist and distort things in order to shape a particular shareable narrative. But we know for a fact that DEI does not work. And we know DEI doesn't work, particularly in the area of higher education, because when you artificially insert people into places and spaces that they have not merited or earned, it actually hurts them. Think about putting someone who I'm old. So when I was considering going to college, back then it was just the SAT. And 1600 was like a perfect score. I don't know how they score that standardized test now, but think about if we were using that as the metric, okay? Like I said, if the metric has changed, forgive me. I'm old. This is a reflection of how it was when I was in school. But if 1600 is the perfect score, and let's say there's a school that says you need at least a 1300 to get in. We typically don't consider people less than having scored a 1300 on the SAT. And let's say you got somebody with a 700. And because they're black, you just say, you know what? We want to give you an opportunity and a chance to come here. And when they get there, do you really think that person is going to excel and do well? Or do you think that person is probably going to drop out halfway through because they're like, I can't keep up with the course load? I've never even learned how to compete on this type of academic level. Like, this is like, I'm still remedial here. I don't know what a thesis statement is. Like, I can't crank out a term paper in the time that you need me to crank it out because I don't have, that skill has not been trained to do that. It doesn't mean that that person is not a good person. It means that that person is not well matched for that institution of higher learning. It's the same thing that you see right now in the office of the VP. Okay, she was a former senator. Okay. She used to be the attorney general. I don't think she earned that either. Along with becoming the district attorney. I don't think she earned. We know how she got there. Let's just put it all out there. A woman who was an attorney general and who was a district attorney who rises to the office of VP cannot formulate a coherent, cohesive sentence that conveys exactly what she's trying to say. And then the end user, you and I, the hearer, are like, oh, yes, that made sense. She couldn't even do that. And you want to convince me that DEI works and that it's good? Have you tried listening to Kamala for more than 2 minutes and you're just like, you confused. You like, I don't even know what she just said. Is she high? You're like, you're just trying to figure out, it gets so bad listening to Kamala that you start thinking that you the problem. You'll be like, I need to read some more because I'm struggling. I am struggling to understand her sentence structure. You don't understand what the subject is. You don't know where the predicate of the predicate part of the sentence is. You're trying to figure out, well, what is the object? Like you can't even map out a Kamala Harris sentence. If you had to diagram her sentences, you'd be like, listen, what were we talking about? Because I don't even know what this sentence was about, who it's about. You don't know. You're like, what is you're confused. That is the point. She's trying to make this point that DEI is good for business and it's profitable for the bottom line. But if that is true, why do we see so many companies abandoning these DEI standards and going back to meritocracy? We see that because they tried it and they realized that it doesn't work. My friends, pride leads to unforgiveness. And when you are prideful, the thought of actually forgiving someone, it's unthinkable. It's unthinkable because you're like, wait a minute. I can't admit that I was wrong. And pride blinds you to your own sinfulness. And so it doesn't matter if the American government freed you from the Democrats that enslaved you. It doesn't matter. You will still try to perpetually hold America in contempt and condemnation because your pride blinds you to the forgiveness that should be easy for you to do. Like if someone hadn't personally done something for you, you're like, yeah, I can forgive, I can move on, but they can't do it. They can't do it. And this is why I'm saying slavery is a choice. And if you continue to harbor that hatred and unforgiveness in your heart, it works for people like Jasmine because she don't really, in my heart of hearts, she might really believe this, but in her lived experience and the privileged position that she's in, she really is not experiencing this oppression. But what she can do is she can share it and sell it to her constituents because as long as they believe that whiteness has some superior stronghold over them, they'll never strive to be free from it. They'll continue to look to her to fight for them in the halls of Congress without realizing that she's part of the problem and she's part of the oppressive system, right? Pride, according to C.S. Lewis, It is not only a competition for superiority, but it's a barrier to forgiveness. It's a barrier. It literally just, it puts the roadblock up. If you allow pride to govern your heart, it convinces us that our grievances, the perceived ones, are more significant than our need to reconcile. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Right? When you allow pride, it wells up in your heart, it takes root, it festers, and the longer it's there, the harder your heart becomes. And then you get convinced that because of your perceived grievance, your grievance is way more significant than the need to reconcile. Plain and simple. It feeds on comparison. Pride is constantly reminding you of how much you've been wronged and how little the other party deserves mercy. It is an anti-God mindset. It is an anti-God worldview. It is completely unchristian. This woman actually calls herself a Christian. I don't understand how, but I don't know her personally. But I'm telling you, pride, it's always whispering that if you forgive or give a concession of power, or you deny the person who is seeking to, like, listen, I don't want no problems with you. I just want to coexist alongside you. It will block. The only path to healing is forgiveness. That's it. And if you want to stay on you want to run in the victim Olympics, because you like just being winded and out of breath and just perpetually running a race that there's no victory at the end of this race. Both the offender and the offended stay in a perpetual cycle of condemnation. Pride refuses. It's going to let go. It refuses to let go of that moral high ground, right? When we talk about this bitterness in Black women that we see today, it keeps them in this state of superiority, and they are unwilling to extend grace. There's no grace for you. Outside of you bowing down and worshiping them as the queens of Blackness, no. There's no grace for you. That's why we have this chasm. This chasm in our relationships. Reconciliation is darn near impossible. And the only way to fix this, you guys, this is why, to me, the gospel is the answer to so many of these situations, whether it's when we examine situations that happen in the public square, whether we examine situations that are happening in our male-female relationships. The gospel answers all of this because, one, the gospel is the only thing that reminds us that you are trash just like they are. Your sinfulness is what separates you from the righteous and holy God. So you're trying to pass, in the seat of judgment and lay at the feet of people who may or may not have wronged you, without reconciling or without realizing that you need reconciliation with your Creator first. And so the gospel says, listen, we all have sinned. All of us are just jacked up on our best day. We need a righteous substitute. We need a righteousness that's not our own. And apart from the righteousness of Christ, all that condemnation that you laying down at the feet of white people is going to be turned right back to you. Because God going to be like, well, what you do? Out here walking around in pride like you the best thing since sliced bread. And all you do is worship and glory in your melanin, which I blessed you with the melanin as a reflection of my glory and diversity in the earth. What more diversity do you need? What more diversity do you need? He grants us this diversity, and then we, as the natural idolaters, that the sinful heart, we always create this factory, and we are a factory of idols. We erect these idols, such as glorying in our flesh, as if it makes us better than those with less melanin. And then we take a situation in history where no one is saying that Black Americans in this country were not wronged or harmed. I admit that all the time when I remind the Democrats that they were the party of slavery and Jim Crow. Yes, subjugation, all of that, all those bullying tactics and demanding that people comply to unfair and unjust laws, those were Democrat-sponsored things. You keep forgetting that. I don't know why is it that the Democrats want to erase their past? Why not own up and live why are they trying to erase their past? Why are they trying to act like there was somebody else who was doing all that and it was them? This is how I'm telling y'all, this is how we know it is cognitive dissonance, which stems from the root of that is pride, and Stockholm syndrome. Because the very ones that they claim are the people, all the oppression that they talk about, it was done at the hands of the ones that are still doing the oppressing today. So, I don't know. Let me go ahead and get to these super chats, and then I'm going to let y'all go because it's getting a little hot. Hey, Sunkissed, how are you? Good to see you today. Thank you for your super chat. Hi, Celine. Good to see you as well. Celine says, did you hear about the FEMA worker who denied help to people in North Carolina with Trump signs? There's something demonic about Democrats. It's beyond politics. Sis, listen, I heard about that, and it happened so fast that I did not get to cover it. And you know what's so sad about that story? Is the woman who came forward as the whistleblower, she really didn't realize that she was condemning herself by admitting that, yes, this was a thing with the FEMA workers. We were told, here was her justification. Trump supporters tend to be hostile. So because they tend to be hostile, some of them, and I don't even know how true this is, we're just going to skip over everybody on the basis of the fact that they had a Trump sign outside of their home. And my question was, so the only hostility that you ever encountered was from Trump supporters? Well, what happens if you encountered hostility from somebody who was not a Trump supporter? Like, how do you, on the basis of that, make that an internal rule, and then you admit it out loud? Like, what is wrong with you? That is so evil. That she didn't even see the evilness of that. Like, she's given interviews like it was a good thing, saying, well, I'm not going to put my team in harm's way. And we're like, ma'am, that's beside the point. It was discriminatory. But she thinks the discrimination was warranted and valid. That's how you know it is a spiritual blindness and of demonic origin. But thank you for your super chat, Celine. Brother Bob, hey, how are you? Brother Bob said, hi, April. The best friendships I had in my old U of Penn workplace were with the Christian sisters. But when Trump was elected in 2016, no more. See, like you were some different person. Isn't that sad? That is so, listen, I remember when I was in corporate America, we could just go out with our coworkers after work and nobody cared who you voted for or what your political affiliation was. Like, nobody cared. It was like, you drinking margaritas or not. Like, you going, okay, yes, then let's turn up after work and do it. And then 2016, when the orange man decides to throw his hat in the race, I'm telling you, Trump shook some things up, and I think it was a good shakeup. I think it was important for him to expose the fact that we have a lot of career politicians and just deep state bureaucracy that needs to be broken up. He exposed the fact that the media was trash, and now the media is actually trying to hold on to preserve their little bit of power, and it's crumbling. Like the idea that Elon Musk might buy or just was joking about buying MSNBC had them losing their minds because they're losing their grip. They're losing their power. Platforms like mine exist where I can give my opinion and commentary and, exercise my Second Amendment right. They would label what I do as harmful and misinformation. And my thing is, okay, well, can we debate the ideas? If it's so harmful, why you got to censor me? Why you got to shut down the public discourse? Why not let's debate? Let's debate the ideas in the market square and just see where does truth land. But they can't do that. They want to censor ideas they don't like. That's what this is really about. If they don't like the ideas, like if you say a man can't be a woman, oh no, that's hateful. Anything how the truth is just hateful now all of a sudden. But you know what? One thing I will say, I am proud. I am proud to be part of the 7% of black women who voted for Donald Trump. I will not live in the shadows of your condemnation. You can be mad all day long. Go ahead and sit over there and stew in your hatred. I don't care. I don't care. I made a decision that was best for my family. I don't live for the collective. I'm not going to have to give an account for the collective, right? I have to give an account for my choices and then how I shepherded and stewarded my children and the resources that were given to me, not to us as the group. Okay? And so that's the decision I made. But anyway, what time is it? Okay, it's 10 o'clock. Yep, it's time to go. You guys, I am trying to shorten these live streams because they get exhausting. And not only that, I want to do them more often. I would love to do a daily show, but if I do 3-hour live streams, that's not going to happen because I do like to be prepared, and it's hard to prepare adequately when the shows are so long. So prepare for me to get a little shorter and more frequent. And I hope you guys don't mind with that. I got some new merch. Got some new merch that came in. This is the 24/7 Pray Grind mug. I don't think you can see it because of the lights. And then this one I'm really proud of. This one says, this is a history mug. It says, Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris. I voted 2024. Y'all see all that red? Ooh, honey, she got her behind spanked. This electoral map is wild. Do y'all see this? This is really my first time post-election looking at the electoral map. This is crazy. When I say America has spoken, America has spoken. Outside of Washington, Oregon, California, Colorado, New Mexico, Minnesota, Illinois, Virginia, and then the New England area, everything went red. Like, it's wild to me. Oh, snap. Who ain't God good? That's his grace right there. We sure didn't deserve it. We sure did not deserve it. All right, you guys, gather with your families this Thanksgiving. In all things, give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you. I do have a new digital download just in time for Thanksgiving called Gratitude. It's a 30-day challenge. And I'd like for you to go ahead and download it. You can visit standardhomeandliving.com to download it. It's only like $3.99. It's really going to help you as we wrap up 2024 to really zero in on gratitude. A lot of us have been struggling this year. Family issues, health issues, financial issues. And sometimes during just when life is lifing, a lot of us are not taking time to be thankful and to really meditate on how God has been good to us despite our circumstances. And so I wanted to create something that would have a meaningful impact in your life, something that you can reflect on. But it is a digital download of 30 days of just meditating on gratitude. So go ahead and grab that for you. And I dropped the link to the Unburdened merch. And then the Standardoftruth podcast actually has some branded merch now. When you click on the link in the description box at the I think it's like one of the first links, you'll see some Standardoftruth podcast sweatshirts and tees and mugs. If you just want to support the channel, you can go ahead and do that. And y'all got to get cooking. I'm not doing no turkey. I'm doing smoked turkey, like parts, like wings and thighs, legs and stuff, but I ain't doing no dirty bird. I can't. I don't have the bandwidth this year for it. And my girls, this will be the first year I'm letting them help me actually not just help prep, but do the cooking. So y'all pray for the mac and cheese because I'm real particular. I don't really like people helping me with my mac and cheese because it's what I am known for. But the only way they'll learn is if I let them participate. So Haley and Hannah will be helping with the mac and cheese. They're doing cornbread. Another child, she wants to do a little cheese ball appetizer, so we'll do that. And we'll just be, I can't eat too much because I can't get chubby. So I gotta, moderation. I'm on my fitness journey. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, I love you guys with the love of the Lord. And until next time, grace and peace.